I first got a telephone call from a mutual friend saying, this gentleman is looking for an actor to join his dance company. Now, as you can see, I'm not built for dance. But my guest is a true master of contemporary dance. I don't want to embarrass him too much yet, but I will. He's literally 2 days back from a British Council tour with his company Protein Dance, who are dancing a piece called LOL, Lots of Love, Laugh Out Loud. They've just come back from playing in Ramallah in Palestine. They've been in Tunisia, they've been in Morocco, they've been in Lebanon, and they've been in Moscow. And last night, even more exotically, they were in Guildford. We're delighted to have him. If he'd had any sense at all, he would have taken to his bed, but because he's such a workaholic and such a sterling good chap, he's here tonight. He is Luca Silvestrini. You're welcome to my church. Just to get a little bit of background out of the way, Luca, you were born in Jesi in Italy.
Jesi. Sorry.
That was Luca Silvestrini, thank you very much. Do I really need this?
I used to give him notes. So
okay. But Italy was right, yes?
Yeah, Italy was good.
Not Italia?
Italia.
Okay. You graduated in Performing Arts at Bologna University, and in 1995, this is all from Wikipedia, so it must be true, you moved to London to study at the Laban Dance School. In the interim period, you've worked with a great deal of top dance companies, including Catherine Seymour Dance Company, Rose's Thoughts, Sarah Rubridge, Joanna Portaloo, Ruth Segalis, and Aletta Collins as a dancer. You then joined the Fanshaws, and then worked with the Chumleys and the Fanshaws with Aletta, and did joint performance with them. Let's start there, because this is obviously where you're first learning your craft. You're learning your choreographic and your performing skills. When you'd arrived from Bologna, had you already decided you will be a dancer, or merely that you would be in the performing arts in some form?
I was already studying performing arts in Bologna, but in a more academic kind of way. Even if I danced since I was 15, I think it was my first dance class. And then I went on this performing arts course, a degree in Bologna, where I had a lot of experiences in theatre, dance, and lots of workshops, lots of people I met, and different groups I joined. And I came to London with a European scholarship called Erasmus.
Oh, the Erasmus, yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
to do a bit of research for my dissertation. And coming to London sort of made me realize that it was the time for me to make a decision what I wanted to do in life. And I was already 27, I think, when I first came here. And I found the sort of dance environment, the dance scene, very interesting and very inspiring. So I decided to sort of give it a go. So I finished my period of research. I went back to Italy to write it, my dissertation, and then I came back in '95 to actually go to Laban and give it a go with dance.
So that was when Laban was just a little building down the side of Goldsmiths College. That was not the grand...
Laurier Grove.
In Laurier Grove,
in New Cross Gate.
So not the fancy Herzog de Meur and
it was the old building with no daylight. So spending, you know, I spent there 2 days, more than 2 days, 2 years of hardcore training. And that's where I met Lee Anderson, director of the Fanshaws. And she asked me to join the company straight after the course, and that's also where I met Bettina Strickler, the co-founder of Protein. So we started
so
as a double act.
What year are we there when you're working with the Fanshaws and the Chumleys?
Sorry, the Fanshaws, I joined the Fanshaws in '97. Unfortunately, the Fanshaws and the Chumleys, they no longer exist because the Arts Council have
Did anyone happen to see either the Fanshaws or the Chalmers? Yeah.
I hope you have the chance, familiar with Lee Anderson's work. I think she's an extremely talented and visionary choreographer.
Yeah. Did you feel you learned a lot as a choreographer during
For me, that
time?
was the, actually that was made, decide to also make him work, and certainly I've learned so much from Lee, and she's certainly one of those artists that leave a strong impact on you. She's very thorough, and she doesn't come to any compromise. When she sees something, she will do it, regardless of what the Arts Council or what the critics say. So she's a true artist, I think. And I hope she will continue to make good work, even if she's not.
Is she just taking time out now?
No, I think she's very busy, actually. But it just the companies that she's been running for the last 25 years, I think, they're no longer funded by the Arts Council on a regular basis, but I'm sure she will be supported as a choreographer.
When you'd finished your apprenticeship, if you like, with the Fanshaws and the Chalmers, did you have an idea of the sort of work you would make with Protein, or did that develop once you'd established Protein as your company? And your work, as I know, because I've been lucky enough to work with you on one project, is very much a devised work. You go into a dance studio, maybe with a title or with an idea of what it's about, and then over a meticulous and fastidious period of trying stuff out, rejecting stuff, filtering stuff, editing stuff, you arrive at these wonderfully amusing, danced theatrical narratives that deal with big topics, or sometimes not so big topics, but in a style that over the last 10, 15 years you've very much established as your own. Did you have that vision before you even started with the first piece as to where you wanted to go with it?
It's interesting. Actually, the vision came through making the first piece, the first duet that Bettina and I started at Laban when we were still students. We wanted to make something that less serious about contemporary dance, because one of the problems with contemporary dance, I think, for a long time has been taking it too seriously and losing the connection with people. And that's why sometimes people find it, dance, actually, I don't understand it, it's too difficult for me. So certainly we had a vision of make it, let's say, accessible in the good way, and connecting with the audience. So that was there from the beginning. And
there was always an element of humour with the Fanshaws and the Chalmers, wasn't there?
Exactly.
As well?
That's why I think it kind of was the right place for me to be. And also talking about the everyday and devising and finding material, dance material and ideas from the everyday. So actually the dance becomes more like whatever you create as a choreographic work it's a comment on the everyday. Or how you can see the ordinary in a more extraordinary kind of way. So that was there from the very beginning, but of course the craft comes from doing it. So you actually develop and go a little bit deeper by doing. You know.
Did you take to the leadership role very easily? Because speaking from experience, you are an incredibly fastidious, conscientious and dedicated professional who, as you say with Lee Anderson, is not prepared to let anything second-rate go. And I've seen Luca, after a 10-hour day rehearsal, ironing the costumes whilst listening to the music and doing an edit on the music while booking the hotel, you know, just because he doesn't really want to leave anything to chance. And he is quite clearly the hardest working man in contemporary dance. And now I'm really glad to say, not in any patronising way, it's reaping rewards, because it is long deserved the success that Luca and Protina are achieving. I think the first piece of yours, or of Protein's, that I was aware of was Pub Life. Could you tell us a little bit about pub life?
Pub life, and I was still dancing at that time. It was still the work very much started from me and Bettina working together as performers as well as choreographers. So somehow you make the work on you. You are the work. And then at some point, it was after Banquet, I decided to stop performing. And pub life was it was a moment when we've done. We already had in our portfolio two or three pieces, and we wanted to do something a little bit going even deeper with this sense of connecting with people. So we decided to do a site-specific, location-based piece, and it was out of a chat with Bettina. So why don't we make a piece in pubs? Because it seems pubs is so British, you know, and we are not from here. Bettina is Swiss, and I'm Italian, and so we thought maybe that there is a lot we can observe and make a comment about what happens in a pub. So we decided to go on this sort of journey, and of course the first thing we did was to sit and drink in pubs and trying to
they call that research, don't they?
Research, funded research.
Yeah, I've done a lot of that over the years.
And sort of observing what the life of a pub is, and the characters and the activities. And then we collected, as I normally do, still a group of artists, dancers, collaborators that sort of interested in making something out of it. And I remember that was the time when we won the Jerwood Choreography Award. They gave us money to research ideas for pub life, and it became a very successful piece. So basically, it's a group of 5 characters, 5 or 6, I can't remember, 5 probably. Going and doing all sorts of different things in a sort of bar or pub area. So the audience are very much close, like you are now, and there is no dance performance space.
Right. So
just
by definition, the amount of movement you could do was restricted.
Very restricted. Yeah. I was played the role of a very camp barman or landlord, I used to say, and sort of Graham Norton kind of style with a very very camp, even camper than I normally am. I researched my character very well, and then there was this sort of very sad, tragic but comic characters out on be a winner for a night. So they were trying their best to sort of be on the spotlight but sort of the piece evolves around the audience. So the audience actually became very much part of the performance.
And you toured that around the UK, performing in pubs and abroad. But I was going to say abroad, in the absence of a cafe or a trattoria is not quite the same thing.
I think it started with pubs, and then I have to say we had to compromise it a bit. So we had to perform sometimes in foyer bars of a theatre, trying to turn it into a kind of pub. But because Bettina and I were not British, somehow this idea of turning something into a pub became like an inner joke. And so all we had a picture of the Queen with some fairy lights that we toured with, and a lot of what do you call banters? No, the flags.
Bunting.
Sorry. A lot of British, and that was the year of the Jubilee, I think.
It's always the year of a Jubilee.
Some kind of Jubilee. I think it was the golden one, not the silver one. And so somehow we managed to turn any area where there was a physical bar and some tables and chairs into a pub
little piece of England.
So that was very simple somehow. And then of course the different activities like karaoke or pub quiz and all the things that you normally do, and pint glasses, of course.
The next piece was when I got that fateful call from David Coulter, our mutual friend, saying there's a company called Protein who are looking for an actor, stroke performer, stroke writer, stroke musician to play God. And I thought,
That's my...
let me think about it. I'll take it. And I remember I met you and Bettina Strickler in the very luxurious cafe at the Laben. And we talked about what I could bring to the party and what you were offering me, and what you were offering was very, very poor. And what I could bring to the party, of course, was massive, being God. And then you said, well, yeah, he's not really God, he's a sort of butler figure as well, and a little bit of David Attenborough.
Yes.
At which point I said, well, already I'm hooked, I'm in, but what the hell
is going on?
Is this piece about? And I remember the rehearsal process was a time of great creativity and great joy and great sense of achievement and inspiration. You are a wonderful man to work with and for. But could you explain a little bit, while I queue up a clip, what the banquet was about?
The banquet was the following piece after Pub Life, and we wanted to make a piece about the men evolution through, and how men, when became so sophisticated from being nothing, from animal to human being, and so the social evolution of mankind. And we, as always with the piece, we don't necessarily know where it's going to take us. We start from some ideas, but we don't necessarily know where these ideas will take us. And we were looking for a leading kind of role that could sort of sort of link all the bits, and it was the first time actually we were collaborating with, or we wanted to collaborate with an artist that sort of could wear different hats, literally, and luckily enough we came across Richard Strange, and that was an absolute pleasure to work with someone so open to actually be part of a dance company.
What I've got here is a little clip where our evolution, or their evolution, I'm totally evolved throughout the whole thing, their evolution has just about reached the stage of dogs, from starting off as slime and primordial soup. They've now reached the level of dogs, and I'm getting rather impatient with them because I want them to be able to go to garden parties in Ascot and so on. But it's a rather long and arduous period of development that it takes to get them there, but we do get them there in the end.
I haven't seen any of these clips for a long time, so this is...
I've never seen such behaviour. Don't make me use this, Mr. Silvester. Right, from now on there's going to be some changes made here. In future, when you hear this sound, walk to the table with the ladies leading the way. Ladies leading the way. Wait for it, wait for it. And walk to the table. Walk to the table, I said. And sit. Sit, Lavelle.
I'll help you to sit, my dear.
Sit, Sylvester. Right. Head up, 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 head up. Good. Enough! Your behaviour disgusts me, all of you. I mean, the mind just to walk out the door, leave you to it, see how you get on left your own devices. All there is one alternative. You learn obedience, respect, discipline, and then together maybe we can build something worthwhile. Who knows what this is? Called a spoon, the finest tool yet devised by man for transferring soup from a bowl to the lips.
So as you can see,
Crazy.
it's dance theatre. It's got a lot of charm to it. That obviously is not a danced piece, but it's obviously a very choreographed piece. the set that Luca decided on was a very raked stage that was covered with imitation grass, and so it could be everything from the pampas to a croquet lawn, and it was over the course of an hour or so, and we observed all the mating rituals of the various stages of evolution up until a dinner party and beyond. And happily or sadly, that was the only time I actually worked directly with protein, but it was a hugely enjoyable and illuminating experience. But of course, ever since then, I've followed them assiduously and enjoyed everything that they've done. I can honestly say. That was your last performance as a dancer, wasn't it? For
yeah, Banquet
Protein.
was my last performance with Protein. I did a couple of projects after that with Lee and Frank Bock, but that was the last performance, Banquet. Yeah. And I have such a great memories of performing with Richard. There was a scene where I was playing the dog, Silvo, and he was teaching me, and I used to jump on his like a dog. And
I was younger then; I could still hold him. But
giving me a biscuit or something. It was very enjoyable. Yeah. But I have to say, it was the work. It's always co-devised, so everyone brings not just their physical abilities, but also their intellectual abilities and their knowledge, their experiences, and that's how the work sort of builds up. And I think working with Richard with his immense knowledge and experience, life experience, as well as artistic experience, was very, very.
What I'd like to do now is move on to the next project, which I think was called The Big Sale. Yeah. And The Big Sale was a wonderful diatribe on consumerism and advertising and the madmen and the hard sell, if you like. Would you like to say a bit about that as I queue up a very amusing
That was
clip?
after Banquet. Of course, I didn't want to have Richard on stage again. That was enough. And so, actually, in Big Sale, I've asked Richard to be on board as a provocateur. Because I liked work with him, and so you came in as a sort of provoking.
I came in with lots of ideas. You rejected every one of them and said thank you very much. But
but that's good. Rejecting means you know better what you want to do next. So say this is it. No. So then you're trying to find your way. But that was very, very interesting sort of role, especially coming later on in the process. Also coming when Richard was coming to see rehearsal, having a chat or discussion afterwards. So that was also another, and musically as well, there was another collaboration with both Richard and David Coulter.
I'd love to say that the set was like a most beautiful, elegant junkyard, and it was in these days before Free Cycle when you actually had to pay for rubbish TVs rather than just go around and collect them because everyone was ditching their consumer goods. But let me show you this.
In terms of idea, Big Sale came from, I don't know, my interest in sort of exploring this idea of manipulation, how media and consumerism can manipulate your desires and what you do, and what is the machine behind the sense of buy what I tell you to buy, not just a product, but just an idea, an opinion, and so, and again, it's a big subject that you enter into, and then you, through the devising process, you kind of select bits of material.
Yeah. So this scene that we're about to watch is one of the classic great offers. It's a sort of buy one, get one free, but it just takes it to the nth degree.
Yeah, I know you don't make the rules, but I'm sure you can make a new rule, like a new deal.
8 for £2.99. What do you not understand?
I mean, I understand, but I cannot have 8 of the same. Don't you understand? This is so frustrating. Yeah, I cannot have 8 of the same. This is like, you're so square. I don't understand. Yeah, you're so square in this country. No puedo entender. Sí, es verdad, no me mires así. Porque yo no puedo entender cómo puede ser así. No me digas a mí que ¿dónde está tu manager? ¿Tienes tu manager? ¿Eres tu manager? Oye, ven para acá porque es que yo no puedo entender. ¿Eres tu manager? Porque es que desde luego...
that's part of the big sale. Some elements of your work recur and recur. You love music, don't you? And you love quirky music. You love music that is very eclectic, that's picked from everywhere, rather than just say, right, we're going to have a Cuban theme or a Spanish theme or a lounge music theme. Are you a music fan, or is it just something that is so integral to your work you instinctively know if something's going to work, even if it's not the obvious route to take with music?
I mean, actually, music doesn't necessarily come, or at least in the past, doesn't necessarily come at the very beginning of the process. I feel like I need to understand a little bit more what I'm trying to say, and then find the right music that can support what I want to do. I think this is very much my approach until very recently for the last current piece of work, LOL Lots of Love, where I decided to collaborate with a composer that was there from the very, very early stage, from even before the sort of the idea was in a very seminal kind of very early stage. So we became more intellectually intertwined and asked him to compose the full score, not existing music, because the transition went very much from working with existing music plus some composed music to having a complete new score, and which of course changed the way you approach music, because then it's the music become it's the result of the process more than find the right music to say the right thing.
Sure. And then just tell us a little bit how you...
But I think the music needs to do what you want. I'm not necessarily someone that start, oh, what a beautiful piece of music. I love to choreograph it. So it's, I'm not that kind of choreographer.
Sure. We're going to move on to Dear Body. A more recent piece, 3-4 years ago?
Dear Body was first conceived for the Place Prize in 2006, and then it was made. Place Prize is sponsored by Bloomberg, and it's a choreographic competition. And we were a finalist with what was used to be called B for Body, which was on the final piece. We didn't win the choreographic award, but it was a very successful piece.
But
so then we decided to turn into a full production.
I was at that competition, and you did very well. And Brian Eno was one of the judges, and Brian Eno said, "This is the only piece of contemporary dance I've ever seen that's made me laugh."
And we exploited that quotation for a while. It doesn't happen every day to have Brian Eno, sort of talking about dance. So that was...
and so
then Dear Body became the full-length production out of that 15 minutes piece for the Place Prize. And again, this was a collaboration with both Richard and David Coulter on music. And Dear Body was I guess a piece that never dies, doesn't it? It's a piece about our obsession with our bodies, how far you can go to transform in the search for love.
That's a part of Dear Body. I think this piece in particular marked the real coming of age of Protein in terms of...
I thought you were talking about me.
No, not of you. You still haven't come of age yet. But of mounting a really big production with film, with music, with light, with costume, with backdrops, with props, and with a big cast, as you can see here. Was that something you thought, I'd really like to do a much larger scale work? Or was it something that you'd won an award, or you had a grant or something, and suddenly you could afford to do something that big?
I think it's part of your, I don't know, at some point you want, you know, when you start sort of mastery, what you do, you want to create bigger work.
Yeah.
I guess it's a normal process for artists to have an ambition and then to try to make it happen.
Yeah.
And Dear Body was actually not even, it was simpler than Big Cell, because the Big Cell staging and set was you know, very difficult.
Yeah.
It was the hardest one. Actually, this one has got more like a clear look, and said it was a more mature work in many respects. And the cast, you saw a very big cast, but we decided to have a local cast in each venue where we were going.
Oh, right, okay.
So those extras are part of a local cast. So there were 6 professional dancers plus a community cast of all sorts of different bodies in size.
And how long would you
shape,
have to rehearse with them?
We only had 3 days. There was a workshop audition, and then they rehearsed with a rehearsal director, and then the day before the show we were working with the dancers to trying to make the piece. And so in each venue, it was a very interesting project, because in each location we had a sort of local presence from the locality.
Yeah. And
it was amazing to work with people that never danced before, that they wanted to be part of a project of that kind. So again, we were going also for certain size, body and age, because the piece was about celebrating the idea of body.
Right.
And it certainly was a massive project,
Yeah.
which aged me in terms of, you know. Yeah.
Well,
to try to
this sort of brings us up to date, and I would love to tarry a lot more on a lot of these things. I know you've recently won an award. The Protein were the winners of the Best Independent Dance Company of 2011, the Critics Circle National Dance Award. For that, congratulations. Are you an OBE or anything yet? Are you?
No.
Are you knighted? Are you
No,
Sir Luca?
no.
It's only a matter of time, trust me.
But do you think I can become?
Oh yeah, easy. If
I'm
Bob
not
Geldof
from
can,
here.
anyone can.
I'm a foreigner.
This last clip that I'm going to show is the piece that you're performing all around the world at the moment. Of this most recent work, LOL, Laugh Out Loud. Lots of love.
Which I renamed Lots of Love.
Yep.
Well, some people think it means Lots of Love.
Would you?
Some people think. Yeah.
Would you like just to introduce this?
This is again my approach to work is I decide to make a piece about something that concerns me or affect my life in a way, and it was in 2009 when I began to think about a piece about the influence of electronic communication in our lives. And it was very much the time when Facebook became, it was the boom of Facebook and other social media. And I remember feeling a little bit uncomfortable by not knowing what Facebook was. You know, people saying, well, I'll find you on Facebook or I'll send you, and I didn't know what it was. I'm not the most sort of technologically advanced kind of person. So then I started noticing a sort of shift in the way people were decided to communicate and in the way people began to sort of advertise or broadcast themselves online. And then through research, I sort of became more and more aware of how much that you can run a separate second life, which is your online life, next to your real life, and how much they sort of cross and become one. And sometimes the danger of becoming a little bit sort of, well, actually, I'd rather contact you via Skype than meet you. So, or you know, or deciding to, you know, I might sort of date online more than just, you know. So how much sort of the actual idea of a cyberspace and a cyber life can affect your, you know, most intimate or normal life.
Yeah.
And then sort of LOL Lots of Love came from a long period of research and great collaborations with both dancer, video makers and composer. And now we've been touring this piece for the last 2 years.
And this is what you did in Palestine and Morocco.
Yeah.
And
so the piece started last year, in January last year. We did a very long tour in the UK in the spring. And then we were asked by the British Council to take part in the British Council Showcase in Edinburgh in the summer. And that's where we were able to show it to an international platform of promoters. And we just came back from this tour of the Middle East,
Fantastic.
where of course the idea of social media has a very relevant place.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at a little bit of that.
Phil, Hope, Darren, Laura and Darren are now friends. Marjorie and Phil both join the group and make myself laugh. Darren and 23 others join the spring. Ashley detached himself from Laura's photo. Phil is offline. Marjorie and Darren are now friends. Laura requested Phil's friendship. Ashley was very straight. Marjorie was poked, Darren was poked, and Laura was poked. Phil just sent me a wink.
That's LOL, laugh out loud. What I'd like to do for the last couple of minutes that we've got Luca here is throw it open to the floor. If anyone's got any questions about Luca's work or contemporary dance in general, or anything else you might like to ask Luca while we're lucky enough to have him. So any questions for Luca? Don't be shy.
I just want to ask, not likely asked, but perhaps just... Sorry. Yeah, just kind of something that I noticed when we talked about Eno saying that something was the funny that you did, and I noticed with that last piece of music and then thinking about the other music we'd heard, is that it's humorous music throughout. Is that intended? You don't use romantic or sad or classical or funky. It's a kind of like joke music. Is that intentional throughout your work and the kind of in terms of the humour content?
I think, as Richard was saying earlier, actually, it's quite eclectic, the choice of music. It was just by chance that probably selected the moments in the piece where there is something quite quirky, let's say. But in LOL Lots of Love, Andy Pink, the composer, created a sound score mainly out of electronic sounds that we're very familiar with, you know, typing and Skype sound and whatever. I think, again, the music for me is not... I love to think that an audience, when it comes to the theatre, have a chance to kind of go on a journey. So musically, it's the same thing, you know. There is a moment when the music comment or support a funny kind of moment, and maybe a moment when actually you know it's a bit deeper, darker, and so the music also has to complement that. So I think if you come to see the show.
Another question? Yeah.
When you start the workshopping rehearsal process, do you start with the body as the medium for expression?
I would say with both the body and the ability to talk. For me, a performer, a dancer, I generally work with dancers, but I tend to sort of work with people that have the ability to articulate their ideas and emotions, as well as physicalize them. And I'm generally looking for a total performer, So, like we do in life, we talk, we express things silently. So I think for me that's what I'm looking for, to actually the words and the physicality, so to complement each other more than keep them separate. So sometimes the tasks I trigger during the process they could be physical tasks, or sometimes verbal tasks, or sometimes both. So I try not to separate that too much.
It's been a real joy having Luca Silvestrini here tonight. We are going to have to move on because we've got so much to pack in, but will you show your appreciation for a great artist? Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Love you.